Hi, Emily.
Hi, Lucas.
Thanks for jumping on. We made a thing.
We did that. We did that.
I'm excited to show people this thing that we made, but I wanted to talk about why we did this thing and why I love werewolves.
Yes, I've been thinking about why I love werewolves for the past few months now.
Really?
And for my whole life.
Are your reasons different than mine?
I bet so. I mean, I think one of the reasons is probably the same, and that is I love dogs. I want the dog. I want to have dog, and if you are the dog, you get to be around a dog all the time. So that's pretty clear cut. Why do you like werewolf stories, Lucas?
My reasons are pretty predictable because I'm very much in this, like, every monster is a metaphor sort of headspace.
Yeah.
And yeah, so werewolves explore the border between animal and human, between hero and villain, between wildness and civilization. And those are all of the stories that were a part of how I grew up, coming from a very rural part of the country. So this is very much my lived experience, I think, and it hits at some of the most interesting things about storytelling and monsters that I really wanted to put in the game and make easier for people.
Yeah. I always felt like werewolf stories were exciting because they have this aspect of fighting with a part of you that you don't necessarily like, but you can't get rid of. And I resonate with that metaphor a lot. There are things about myself that I want to change, but that I know that are part of me that are important to some extent or even helpful in certain situations, but that it's still important to grapple and think about what can be better about some of those. I'm not saying that I'm a dangerous wolf.
Well, yeah, whatever.
Actually, I would love. Yeah, I have to admit to you that I'm a werewolf, and that's why I was so interested in this project. So,
Yeah, I mean it's all hyperbole, right? It's not actually a wolf, but it's way easier to understand it that way than it would be to sort of get into the specifics of who you are that you don't want to be.
right, well said.
So with all of that potential, I thought it was kind of wasted on the way D&D is designed. And, the DM's Guild is the place to take these kind of big swings and fix some of the things that we're not necessarily happy with. So there's a couple of ways to be a werewolf in D&D right out of the box, but I didn't particularly like them. First of all, you could just read it out of the monster manual. You make a constitution saving throw, and if you fail, you're afflicted with a curse of lycanthropy. Curse mechanics in this edition aren't particularly well explained. Like, how does the curse end? How do you get it? Like, is this a... So it's a hot mess if you try and just do it that way.
Yeah, and you just need like a level 3 spell to get rid of it, which can be kind of an unsatisfying arc.
Yeah. So not really what I wanted out of werewolves. You could also use Matt Mercer's Blood Hunter class, and no shade there, but I didn't want to build a whole character around it and lock it into a martial class. Plus, not everybody wants to use a Blood Hunter in their campaign. It's a very involved class. It's got a lot of ambitious mechanics to it. Not necessarily the perfect solution for everybody. So I wanted something that was more broadly applicable. And I was like, well, what if we just strip it down to the most basic thing it can possibly be? And what if we rewrite this as a feat?
Which is great because now it's sort of out of genre, where like the Blood Hunter class comes with a bit of noir Witcher vibes. The feat can be applied plainly to your campaign without bending the genre in one direction or the other. I guess it does bend it towards werewolf, but I think werewolf stories can fit in a lot of genres. I think we've proven that through the many, many other forms of werewolf stories we've got.
Yeah, it's not necessarily full on horror. There are a lot of stories and mythologies where werewolf transformations was a deliberate and often beneficial and often explicitly heroic power, rather than sort of this body horror humanoid kind of thing that Hollywood schlock has given us.
My favorite werewolf story is, I think it starts in Greek myth. It's like lycanthrop. The word comes from this guy Lycanthropus or something. I don't know Greek mythology. Anyway, he gets cursed. Him and his sons get cursed to be wolves by Zeus because of a thing they did that made Zeus mad. But then someone twisted the story a little and was like, oh, they were just wolves, but then the werewolves come from, they went to the druids and they basically learned how to become human again. And so they could go between being a wolf and a human, which is kind of a different version where they started as wolves, had to
Yeah.
become human again, which is the werewolf story. It's like, how do I remain human and have this animalistic nature?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we were hoping these feats would be able to do. So we wrote 7 of them, the 5 from the original monster manual and 2 that just felt
For
like the
fun.
logical next steps.
Yeah.
And we also wanted to give some balance options for dungeon masters who wanted to play this. So we've added some quirks that your character might have if they take this feat. We added a mechanic for bloodlust, or that kind of bestial frenzy that goes into it. And then we added a mechanic to tie it to the cycles of the moon. Again, none of which I think are necessarily part and parcel with werewolf stories, but we wanted you to have that option. So all told, it's a little 10-page supplement. You can get it now on the DMs Guild, and there's a code in the description to get it for half off. If that still works, then we haven't sold 51 copies yet. And we're excited for you to be on the early bandwagon of this.
Do it.
And please tell us about your werewolf stories, because if there's anything we've learned from this experience, it's that there's so many more ways of talking about this and telling this story than we're dreamt of in our philosophy. So we'd love for you to be the Hamlet to our Horatio in this situation.
Have you heard the one where only a werewolf's closest family or truest love can turn them back into a human?
I have not.
Wow, that would be a really good.
That would be amazing. And you could do it. Just one of many possibilities. Hey, I'm Lucas.
And I'm Emily.
I'm really excited for you to have this thing that we made. We'll see you the next time we make a thing.